Welcome to a play-by-play review. I am your host, Henry, and hey, it's week 16, and we finally got a good number of playoff clinching scenarios done and done with. Actually got almost all of them. I think it's only 4 playoff spots left are now up for grabs compared to the probably 10 there were going into this week. So yeah, the whole parity and craziness, honestly, it just keeps rolling at this point. This week was no exception in terms of crazy. We had a lot of big games with really big comebacks or chokes, and a lot of just really shocking results in the sense of maybe not upsets, but you're watching a game and a team is dominating, and then suddenly with 5 minutes left to go, the other team wins. There were multiple instances of this, and it was kind of crazy. And we start off with Thursday Night Football, and this set the precedent for this week. To be honest, the Rams are going into Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Both teams above 10 wins, firmly in the playoff hunt. I don't know. I don't remember if they were. Well, I think the Rams were already in the playoffs at this point. I'm not sure if the Seahawks were or not. I think they were. Either way, they were both. I think the Seahawks were 11-3. The Rams were also 11-3 or something. I don't know. Anyway, the Seahawks would win. They're 12-3. Rams are 11-4. So my brain's a bit broken right now. I'm getting frustrated at the fact that this one video that I'm trying to, or that I recorded, is taking 3 hours to render, despite it being an entirely just one screen. It's just a video of my computer screen. It just, I don't know. I'm a little frustrated there. But anyway, you'll see that posted on my YouTube channel. It's Henry the Host. Go subscribe there. Henry the Host, all one word. Please go subscribe. I would love it if you subscribed. I could use the numbers. But anyway, that video should be going up whenever that gets done rendering. But anyway, the Seahawks would defeat the Rams in overtime, 38-37. And this is a game that the Rams were pretty, they were dominating for 85 to 90% of the game. The Rams were without Devontae Adams in this game, which was pretty evident on the fact that they heavily relied on Puka Nacua. He finished with 12 catches, 255 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Should caveat that he had a 60-yard touchdown catch in overtime. But even still, before that, he was going off. Matthew Stafford went 29-49 for 457 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is firmly in the driver's seat for MVP this year. And I'm not surprised at all. He has 40 touchdowns to 5 interceptions and I think over 4,000 passing yards at this point. He's having a season for the ages. And he had another really good game this game. The Seahawks defense was struggling for a good while to really stop the Rams passing attack. And the Seahawks on offense were okay for the most part. Sam Darnold was definitely not having his best game. The Rams were really aggressive to start on offense. They were going forward on fourth down all the time. And it kind of bit them in the butt a little bit early. They failed to go for it on their first drive, or failed to convert on their first drive after a long sustained drive. But as the game went on, they converted more and more of them. But Sam Darnold threw, I think, 2 interceptions this game. I think there was also a fumble this game. The Seahawks were struggling with turnovers. Kenneth Walker actually had a pretty good game. He had both rushing and receiving. He had over 150 scrimmage yards, I think. And it seemed like the typical Rams Seahawks, what we expect, where the Seahawks just are a little too inconsistent, and Sam Darnold does not play well against the Rams because he has not played well against the Rams for a good while now. And that was looking the case up until about 7 or 8 minutes, I think, left in the fourth quarter, when the Seahawks were down multiple scores and the Rams had the ball on offense, and then they went 3 and out, and then they punted to Rashid Shaheed, who then ran it back for a touchdown. And then the Rams got the ball in the offense, and then they went 3 and out. And then the Seahawks scored a touchdown. Then the Rams went 3 and out. And then it was the Rams offense just completely shut down in the fourth quarter. It was very odd. And they got away from the run game very quickly, and I don't really know why. And they just could not convert a first down to save their lives. And they were doing that, and they were wasting no time on the clock. They just gave the Seahawks plenty of opportunities to crawl back in the game, and immensely credit the Seahawks and Sam Darnold. They crawled back in this game. They scored multiple touchdowns, I think they converted 3 2-point conversions this game, all of them in the fourth quarter and overtime. And it was very, very impressive because I was fully expecting the Rams to win this game. I thought they were the better team. I thought the Rams have been one of the best teams in football for the past 2 months. And I thought this was going to be another pretty dominant victory by the Rams. And it looked like that up until the point that it didn't. And even then, the Rams struck first in overtime. They scored a touchdown. The Seahawks then countered. They marched down the field, scored a touchdown, and converted the 2-point conversion for the win. The Rams held Jackson Smith and Jigba in check for most of the first half, but then he had a good second half. And overall, it was one where, both teams are good. Ultimately, it was kind of like they were both staring into the void, and the Rams blinked first. That's really all I can say. The Rams just, despite forcing more turnovers and having, I think, 550 plus yards of offense, they just fell apart at the end, which is something they have actually done a few times before. They did it against the Eagles early in the season. They kind of did it against the Panthers too a few weeks back. So that's kind of the one thing I do worry about the Rams, is that they might struggle a little bit to finish games as we get into the playoffs. The Rams have fired their special teams coordinator, and I think a lot of Rams fans I've seen have been pretty happy about that. So the Rams still very much in the hunt for the 1 seed, but this game they took a huge hit because of it. Seahawks they've definitely officially clinched a postseason berth after this, and they're well within shot to clinch the number 1 seed as well. This NFC West outside of the Cardinals is crazy this year. So moving on, so that was the Thursday night game. We'll move on to the first of the 2 Saturday games, since college football they're in their midst of the playoffs at the moment, but the regular season for the college football is done. So that lets the NFL kind of swoop into the Saturday slot and throw a few games in there. So first one was at 5:00 on Saturday, and it was the Philadelphia Eagles going to Washington to take on the Commanders. And I was kind of looking forward to this game, but not really. The Commanders are out of playoff contention at this point and really playing for draft pick positions. They're after this game, they are now picking 7th. So I'm not the most unhappy with the loss. I really would have preferred if they beat the Eagles, because I just hate the Eagles. And it would have been funny to try and see if they if they lost out and the Cowboys won out, to have the Cowboys take the division out from under them. That did not happen. The Eagles won this game 29-18. The Eagles did not look all that good for a good chunk of this game, to be honest. They were struggling to get going on offense. They had 1 or 2 good drives up until the fourth quarter, and I'll get to the later part of the game in a sec. But they were pretty sluggish on offense. Jalen Hurts, he was fine. He didn't turn the ball over, but he only finished with 185 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, and he was missing a couple throws here and there. And it was just a really sluggish offense for a majority of it. And the Commanders were keeping up until the point where Marcus Mariota got injured. Because, of course, this Commanders team cannot go a game without having 5 of their players injured. And this time it was Marcus Mariota. Also, Jalen Lane, he got injured in this game. I will also say that the Eagles were without Lane Johnson or Jalen Carter going into this game. Nakobe Dean also got injured in this game. Although the Washington, among the many other injuries they had, they were now without Larry Tunsil in this game. And they lost Jalen Lane pretty early on to a pretty cheap shot, I must say. He didn't signal for a fair catch on a punt, but I think it was Sidney Brown who went in, basically just went right for his legs, and that injured him, and he's now out for the rest of the season. Deron Payne also got injured in this game. I think he came back though. Marcus Mariota did get injured in this game, multiple different injuries. I think they were checking him for, but ultimately it's been a hand injury that was the reason that he no longer played in this game. They had Commanders were forced to turn to Josh Johnson, who is in his 19th or 18th year in the league, and his 15th team. Josh Johnson did not play well. Let's just say that right now. He did not play well at all. Jake Elliott also missed 2, but actually 3 field goals in this game, all in the second quarter. There's one right towards the end of the half where Elliott missed a field goal, but the refs called a phantom offsides penalty on the Commanders, which gave him a second shot. Well, the Eagles then threw a deep bomb, which went incomplete. And then Jake Elliott kicked another field goal and basically kicked the exact same kick for a miss. And yeah, also on the referees, they were god awful in this game. Like very heavily favorite toward the Eagles for some reason. And like the Eagles didn't need the refs to, win the game. They won pretty handily. And really, like once Marcus Mario went down and Josh Johnson came in, it was pretty much all but over. The Commanders kind of gave up at that point. Saquon Barkley also kind of exploded in the fourth quarter when the Commanders just stopped trying. But the refs were like, they missed a blatant pass interference on Treylon Burks on the opening drive. Like Cooper DeJean had both of his arms just locked around Treylon Burks' arm when he was trying to go up for a pass, and they just like right in front of a referee as well in the end zone, and the ref just did not call it. They also called like multiple phantom pass interference calls and like basically gifted the Eagles a touchdown in the second quarter. It was just ridiculous. But ultimately, like the Eagles, they didn't need the refs to win the game. They like it was just very frustrating. But yeah, ultimately the Eagles win. They're 10-5. They've clinched the NFC East. First time we've had a back-to-back NFC East winner in 20 years, which is kind of crazy. The Eagles are still very, very flawed. Their offense is incredibly stop and go and underwhelming. Their defense is very good. I've been a proponent of their defense for most of the year. It's been a very strong asset to them, and that's really what's going to carry them anywhere in the playoffs if they can. It is, if Barkley can continue this little stretch he has right here, maybe the Eagles can actually make some noise, but right now I just have zero confidence in them. It is partly me being a hater. I will certainly acknowledge that, but their offense is just, it looks nothing like it did last year. So I just cannot in good faith say that the Eagles can make a run with how pedestrian at best their offense looks. I will also say, because of the Eagles win here, the Dallas Cowboys are eliminated from the playoffs. So then we move on to the night game on Saturday. The Green Bay Packers going into Chicago to take on the Bears. A very, very big game in terms of playoff seeding. And also, Packers are still very much like fighting for just a playoff spot in general. And even then, the Bears kind of were in this game as well. Like if the Packers had won, which they didn't, the Bears would have been in as much trouble really as the Packers are right now. So the Bears would win 22-16 in overtime. In a game that took a good while to get started. The Bears were missing Rome Odunze and Luther Burden going in this game, and it kind of showed because the Bears offense was struggling for a good chunk of this game. It was a really windy game, so it seemed like the passing attack on both teams was wasn't really like trying, or it was struggling essentially to make it a bit more simple. Pretty like early, I think in the first half, I forget exactly when, but Jordan Love took basically a spear right to the face by a Bears defender where he kind of tucked his head in and as he was about to get tackled, and the Bears defender just went like crown of the helmet right into Jordan Love's face. Depending on who you ask, this was a completely legal or a completely dirty tackle. Definitely from looking at it live, it looked dirty. I can definitely see the reasoning where Jordan Love basically tucked his helmet right into the contact, but like even still, the Bears defender was launching pretty high right into the face mask. And it completely concussed Jordan Love, and he was out for the rest of the game. So Malik Willis came in for the Packers, and he actually played pretty well, to be honest. He was operating the offense at a pretty good level. His mobility was really putting a thorn. It was a big thorn in the side for the Bears defense for a good while. Luckily for the Bears, their defense was able to hold the Packers down just enough for their offense to finally wake up in the fourth quarter. And the Bears would eventually score a touchdown, then convert an onside kick under 2 minutes, and then score a touchdown again to force overtime. The Packers got the ball first and started marching down the field. Then on a 4th and 1, they fumbled the snap and turnover on downs. Then about 3 plays later, I think, the Bears went for a kill shot, and really good throw from Caleb Williams here. He hit DJ Moore on a deep ball for the game-winning touchdown. So for as much as Caleb Williams and the Bears offense was not having a great day for most of it, they really rallied together towards the end and snatched a victory away from the Packers in overtime from some good performances right there at the end. So once again, that throw that Caleb Williams made to win the game in overtime, really good throw. I do worry about the Bears just that they've been kind of the comeback kings this year. Like they won a lot of games. I mean, them and the Broncos really. They've gone down early and like struggled for a lot of the early portions of games, like both first half and even the third quarter, but have come back and won games in the fourth quarter. I just don't know if that's really like sustainable going into the playoffs. But again, even in the playoffs, you only really need to win 2 or 3 or 4 games, or like 3 or 4 games, not 2, to win it all. But it's just a little concerning that both them and the Broncos tend to get off to slow starts. So I just keep an eye out for that. As for the Packers, a lot more injuries. They're still kind of in the driver's seat for a wild card spot. I don't know if they can win the division now, but they're still have a decent chance. I'm pretty sure at least. But it's still very concerning with how they've been playing as of late, and also more so the injuries that they've had is that they're like they can certainly make it into the playoffs, but they're just going to be so hobbled that they'll probably get bounced in the first round just because like a lot of their major players are just injured essentially. And that's the big worry there. So now we get to the Sunday slate of games, and a lot of these were honestly kind of not as good, especially in the first half, or like the early window. We get Jets at Saints, the 3-win Jets going in, and the 4-win Saints going at it. The Saints would win 29-6 in a game that was not really surprising. Tyler Shuck looks pretty good. I mean, like I said with Jacksonville last week, it's the Jets, so it's like not super surprising. The Jets still do not have an interception on the year. They're now through 15 games on the season and still do not have an interception. Chris Olave had an insane game, 10 catches, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns. And yeah, this was just very like, you'd only really want to watch this if you're a fan of the teams, or B, looking at like draft position or like trying to scout a player. It's just a game that's like one of the games that just kind of happens late in the season that like 2 bad teams go out and 1 team wins. It's pretty uninteresting overall. We had a Taysom Hill 38-yard touchdown pass, which was pretty cool. And that's about it. I think Justin Fields has been put on season-ending injury reserve. So we're probably just going to have Brady Cook starting for the Jets for the last 2 weeks. I would be shocked, to be honest, if the Jets won another game. I'm just going to say that right now. For the Saints, I mean, losing some draft stock is always a little unfortunate for a team that's rebuilding. But, if your young guys like Tyler Shuck can, produce like they have and like show some growth, I think I kind of said it last week, like that, honestly, I feel like is more important than between picking 6th and picking 9th or something like that, whatever it is, wherever the Saints are picking right now. They might be picking 10th now, something like that. But still, yeah, it's for Saints fans, there's like cautious optimism going into the offseason that they might have a quarterback who can be pretty serviceable. So next up, I'm gonna go to the Chiefs and Titans, both teams eliminated from the playoffs, and this game was also pretty boring because obviously no Pat Mahomes for the Chiefs. They were starting Gardner Minshew, and they just did not play well at all. The Titans won 26-9, and Cam Ward actually looked pretty solid in this game, to be honest. Tony Pollard had a pretty good game. Really, the Titans as a whole, pretty solid overall. Gardner Minshew unfortunately got injured in this game. There was a fear that he tore his ACL, but actually has luckily not been the case. I don't think he's playing again this season, but Minshew avoided the worst possible scenario essentially. So it's a bad injury, but not as bad as it could be essentially. And the Chiefs did not look good with him, and they did not look good without him either. So this is just ugly all around. For the Titans, I mean, it kind of messes up their tank a little bit, but again, it's like I said with the Saints, between drafting like 2nd and 5th, I mean, you probably might lose out on like one of the top players, probably, but at the same time, you do really want to see some growth from Cam Ward in a season that has been a major struggle for most of this team. So getting him, victories and just like more reps, more like successful operations with the offense is also very, very helpful. So hopefully for the Titans, Cam Ward can continue to develop and play more like he did in this game than like he did early in the season. After that, we'll go to the Vikings and the Giants. Just kind of going through some of the less interesting games and less like impactful games to start, just to get them out of the way. So both teams also obviously eliminated from the playoffs. The Vikings would go into New York and win 16-13 in a game that was just not interesting to watch at all. JJ McCarthy got knocked out with an injury in this game early in the second half. He had a hand injury. I think his hand got stepped on actually. The Giants' offensive game plan was basically just run the ball and never throw it. Jackson Dart finished with like 33 net passing yards or something like that. It was just not good. Justin Jefferson finally had a decent game for once, which is like the first time that's happened in a while because he's had a very quiet season with the quarterback carousel in Minnesota. So, I mean, he only finished with 85 yards, but it's sadly been a lot better than what he's had for most of the season. The Giants' offense was terrible. They did not do great running the ball. Obviously, they're missing Cam Scatabo, but even then, they have like Tyron Tracy and Jackson Dart, and they just did not perform well. And then when they tried to pass the ball, it was honestly even worse. The Giants have a lot of rebuilding to do. They are firmly in the driver's seat for the number 1 overall pick at the moment. They're definitely not going quarterback unless they like really don't like Jackson Dart for some reason, but I doubt it. There's a good chance that Joe Shane does not wind up seeing the draft, but who knows who they go with. There's plenty of like big skill position players listed high in the draft, so who knows? They could also trade down. There's a good chance they trade down as well for a quarterback hungry team looking to get, probably Fernando Mendoza. So I don't know. We'll see. But I doubt the Giants will win another game just because they've looked so bad. So there's a good chance the Giants will be picking number 1 overall come April. As for the Vikings, it's whatever. It sucks for them that McCarthy got injured again. You really got to worry about his health at this point because he obviously missed his entire rookie season due to an injury, and he's missed about like half this season as well with a number of injuries as well. And even when he's played, it's largely been not the best. Like the past couple weeks have been good, but it was also against some pretty bad defenses in the Commanders and Cowboys. So you got to hope in year 3 he takes a major step because right now there's a lot left on the table essentially. After that, let's go to the Bengals and Dolphins for the last of the uninteresting early window games, I'd say. Mostly because, again, these teams are eliminated from the playoffs. This game was actually interesting in terms of like an offense, since both teams have good offenses and bad defenses. The Bengals, after getting shut out last week, decided to invest all their points into this week. They would go into Miami and score 45 points, winning 45-21. The Dolphins they had benched Tua Tagovailoa going into this week. I had actually mentioned that on one of my Metroid Prime episodes that are up on my YouTube channel. Just go, once again, check that out. It's been pretty fun. The Dolphins were starting Quinn Ewers. Tua was relegated to emerge third-string quarterback, so it was actually Zach Wilson with the backup. Quinn had a okay debut. The Dolphins as a whole were not good this game. Bengals were much better, and like for the first half they were keeping it close. Like it was 17-14 Bengals going into half, and then the Dolphins just kind of shut down after that. The Bengals scored 21 points in the third quarter alone. I think all 3 of them were Chase Brown touchdown catches, which was kind of funny. I was a little miffed that because I had Jamar Chase and I really needed him to have a huge game, and he had a good game but not a huge game, so I kind of wish Burrow threw some of those passes to Chase, but touchdown passes, I should specify, but it's well. It's hard to win fantasy when your opponent scores 300 points over 2 weeks, over 300 points, I might add. But yeah, anyway, this was a game where this is like, you see when the Bengals offense is like on the field and healthy because T. Higgins was back. And for the most part, it was the usual Bengals offense. They can put up a lot of, like, this is kind of the Bengals team that we expected going into the season. Like they just put up all the points and their defense was along for the ride. It's just way too little, way too late for them, unfortunately. And they're 5-10 and have a lot of questions going into the offseason. And I don't know if they're going to answer all of them, if even like half of them. Same with the Dolphins, really. It's for both these teams, I don't know if either of their head coaches are going to be staying. I think there's been rumors or like talk that Mike McDaniel is going to be staying as the Dolphins head coach. Not quite sure why. I know Tua hasn't exactly been great, but McDaniel hasn't always been the best head coach either. I don't know why the Bengals would want to keep Zach Taylor after his tenure, because Zach Taylor has not been a very good head coach, to be honest. They need a clean house. Both their general manager, like that whole office, and then also the coaching staff, because this system they have is not working. Now then, to move on to actually more important games in terms of the playoffs, I should say. The Buffalo Bills going into Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Bills are still within, very much within playoff hunt for, some of the top seeds in the AFC. Browns obviously are not. They are 3-12 at this point, and they lost this game. However, this game was actually close. The Bills did not play a very good game, to be honest, this go around. I think Josh Allen actually got injured during this game out on it's not like he's going to be out for multiple weeks, but it's like he's a day-to-day, I'm pretty sure. The Bills would win 23-20. I'm not sure if I said the score already, but the rushing attack for the Bills was doing well, but the passing game was really struggling. The Bills could use a big skill level wide receiver that they just do not have at the moment. Their receiving core is very limited, and that's kind of been the theme for a lot of the Bills in the Sean McDermott and Josh Allen era, is that the receiver core, really outside of the few years they had Stephon Diggs, has been one of the biggest weak points. And like they had Keon Coleman and Gabe Davis were both healthy scratches in this game. And it was started out hot and then fizzled out, essentially, is how they kind of performed this game. And they held on, but it was way closer than it needed to be. I get the Browns have a good defense and a really good rookie class, but it did not need to be this close for a team that is very much Super Bowl or bust at this point. Shedeur Sanders got injured in this game, but he did come back. Unfortunately for the Browns, Quinshon Judkins suffered a big leg injury in this game. He's out for the rest of the season. Don't know how long it's going to take for him to come back to full strength. And it was just kind of an ugly game overall. Myles Garrett is now a half sack away from tying the all-time single-season sack record. He's at 22. The record is 22 and a half. So one full sack would break the record, which is held by TJ Watt and Michael Strahan. So that's really been the one thing to watch if you're watching the Browns game, is to see if Myles Garrett breaks the sack record. And for the Bills, you got to hope your offense just gets a little bit better. The run game was working. James Cook had another good game, 117 yards and 2 touchdowns on 16 carries. But with a team with Josh Allen, you need a little bit more from the passing attack. So after that, we are going to go to the Los Angeles Chargers of the Dallas Cowboys. I guess both these teams were, the Chargers still very much in playoff contention. The Cowboys are starting. That's what I was thinking of. But yeah, the Chargers went into Dallas, who had just the day before been eliminated from the playoffs, and the Chargers very much trying to keep up with a number of the teams in the AFC, the top of the AFC. So the Broncos, the Bills, and the Patriots, and also the Jaguars and the Texans. So top 5 or 6 AFC teams are very close to each other, which should be fun to watch. And Chargers took care of business pretty handily in this game. They won 34-17. In a game that was not really, it was a little bit of a competition for the first half, but after that, the Chargers took care of business pretty quickly. The Cowboys defense had a terrible game, to be honest. They did not sack Justin Herbert a single time, which is the first time that's happened all season, that Justin Herbert has not been sacked in a game. And that's just kind of the story of the Cowboys defense, is that their pass rush, since they traded away Micah Parsons, it sucks, to be honest. The brief boost they got from Quinnen Williams was nice, but it's not nearly enough. It was a back and forth offensive shootout, and then the Cowboys offense just kind of shut down in the second half. They did not score a single point in the second half, I might add, whereas the Chargers just kept on rolling. Justin Herbert had another nice game, 23 of 29 for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Quentin Johnson had a good game. He had, I think, 2 touchdown catches in this game. And really just for the Cowboys, George Pickens had a good game, and that was about it. And yeah, it was just kind of story to the Cowboys season that their offense puts up good numbers, but doesn't do enough, and their defense just sucks. And that's kind of been the Cowboys for, you know, this whole season, to be honest. And there's a reason why the Cowboys are 6-8. Well, 6-8-1 technically. For the Chargers, though, huge win keeps them well within contention for a playoff, like a high-seeded playoff spot, and I think the division as well. I'm pretty sure their AFC West is still up for grabs between the Chargers and the Broncos. But we'll get to the Broncos here in a little bit. So last up for the 1 o'clock slate, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Carolina to take on the Panthers. This is a very big game for both these teams, as they were both 7-7 with the division on the line. And like, not that this game decided the division, but like the division is a race between these two teams, and whoever won this had very much the inside track going into the last 2 weeks. And fortunately for the Panthers, they would win 23-20 in a game that was a little ugly, but like kind of your typical NFC South matchup in the 2020s, where no one really looks spectacular unless they have Tom Brady, and the Bucs don't have Tom Brady. And like, there's some mistakes on both sides, and it wasn't like, your major offensive shootout. But ultimately, it was one that was very entertaining to watch either way. The Bucs actually elevated Jason Pierre-Paul in this game. I don't think he really did much, to be honest. And it's clear that the injuries that the Bucs have had, and on the offensive side of the ball especially, mainly Baker Mayfield playing not nearly like he was in the first half of the season, and just the wide receiver core haven't really struggling with on and off injuries this whole year are showing, and the Buccaneers just have not been playing good football for a good while now. Baker just does not look like himself. The defense is playing okay at best, and the rest of the offense is struggling to keep up, to be honest. The Bucs certainly kept it close, but they just couldn't quite do enough. And even though the Panthers certainly weren't playing, lights out, Bryce Young only finished with 191 yards. They played well enough to secure the win, and that's all that matters. In the end, that is all that mattered. And credit the Panthers for playing much better football over the past couple weeks. It's not always pretty, but they're getting the job done, and that's huge for when basically when they don't play the Saints, they're playing a lot better. It's just when they play the Saints, they just kind of forget how to play football for some reason. But it's real big win for the Panthers. Honestly, at this point, I do see the Panthers making the playoffs over the Bucs, just because the Bucs have been so incredibly inconsistent, and really they're one of the teams that kind of peaked too early. Them and the Colts are really the two teams especially that peaked far too early, and I just don't see the Bucs turning things around. And even if they do, I do not see them winning a playoff game. Honestly, I don't really see the Panthers winning a playoff game either, but they could, shock some people. They beat the Rams, and they're a team that I'm not necessarily saying they have nothing to lose. They're playing with house money, because they're definitely not, because they're in year 3 of Bryce Young, and year 2, I think, of Dave Canales at this point. So it's there's expectations there, but at the same time, I'm sure they'd just kind of be happy to be there in the playoffs at this point. Finally turning around a franchise that has been going through just the worst type of stretch in the past 5 or 6 years. So I'd be excited to see the Panthers in playoffs, just to as a potential wild card to really shake things up if they win a game. That would be kind of fun to watch. Now to the late afternoon slate. We'll start with the Atlanta Falcons and the Arizona Cardinals. Falcons going into Arizona to take on the Cardinals in a game where both teams were eliminated from the playoffs, and the Falcons won 26-19 in a game that was, for me, it was just kind of on in the background. I didn't really care too much about it. I mean, I was paying attention a little bit to see if the Cardinals would win, to see for draft position for affecting the Commanders. The Cardinals did not win. Josh Sweat got injured in this game. And Bijan Robinson kind of really well, just the Falcons as a whole, both Bijan and Tyler Algier just kind of ran all over them. Bijan actually finished with 92 reception yards. And it's just unfortunate for the Falcons where they seem to do this a lot lately, where they finally start playing good football when it doesn't matter. Like the past couple weeks, Falcons have actually looked pretty decent. They're just eliminated from the playoffs at this point, so it doesn't matter in the end. Walter Nolan unfortunately got injured on a non-contact injury. Like his knee or leg got injured, so hopefully he's okay and it's not terrible. But it's one where two bad teams went in, one team played better than the other, and for the Falcons, like honestly at this point it's fine. Like I'm sure they're happy with playing well because they don't have their first round pick, so like they don't care. They don't really care about draft position all that much because their wins affect the Rams really. And it's like just trying to build at least a little bit of momentum going into the offseason is always nice for the Cardinals. I mean, they're definitely in the hunt for a quarterback. I'd be surprised if they just kept on rolling with Brissett, even if he's played all right. They need a lot. They just need a lot. And I don't know exactly how they're going to get around to it because they just have not. This is looking like to be the end of an era in Arizona. And next year might be another just blow it up, like kind of what the Saints have done of just like blowing it all up and tanking for a year, and it might be even worse than it is this year, unfortunately. So after that, I think I'll go with the Raiders and the Texans because the other two late afternoon games were very, very big in terms of playoff position, and this game less so in the sense that only one team was in any playoff position, that being the Texans. So the Texans would actually play host to the Raiders, and they would win 23-21 in a game that really should not have been anywhere close. The Raiders defense played one of its better games of the season. The Texans offense was again really stymied for a lot of it. Ashton Genty had a breakout game. I guess you would say breakout game. He's had some good games before this, but a really good game this time around. He had 24 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown. He also had a 60-yard touchdown catch on his lone reception. So, if you had Ashton Genty in fantasy, you were pretty happy. He had probably 35 points or something like that. But sadly, this has been the best the Raiders have looked in a good while, and even then they still lost. But I mean, playing a team like the Texans as close as they did, some good there. But it's really more Texans. Why in the world was this anywhere close? Because this is legitimately one of the worst teams in football, and they're a playoff team, or they're a team that is firmly in the playoff hunt, and they should not be playing teams like this close. And this is my worry. This has been my worry for the Texans for most of the year, is that their offense they don't have much of a run game, and their passing attack is way too inconsistent, way too inconsistent, and it's a team that seems to be reliant a lot on their defense, and while this defense is really good, they need some more help from their offense, and I don't know. I don't know if it's going to come in time for the playoffs. So after that, we'll jump back 20 minutes to the other 4 or 5 game. We'll go with the Jacksonville Jaguars going into Denver to take on the Broncos in a heavyweight AFC matchup. Both these teams gunning for the top seed in the AFC. The Broncos who were on a 10-game win streak. The Jags playing really good football as of late. And I'd said last week when the Jags beat the Jets, when they just completely destroyed the Jets, I might add. It's their offense played really well that week. I just needed to see them play like that against good competition. And boy, did they do that. The Jacksonville Jaguars went into Denver and just pantsed the Broncos, winning 34-20. They legitimately the best I've seen the Jacksonville Jaguars play all season. Even better than when they played against the Chiefs back in week 5 or whatever it was. This was the Jags offense was having a day. Parker Washington had 6 catches for 145 yards and a touchdown. He just could not be stopped at all. Trevor Lawrence had another excellent game. I think this might be one of, if not Trevor Lawrence's best games as a pro. I get numbers wise, he had his best game last week, in terms of just pure numbers. But I think against the level of competition of the Denver Broncos, Lawrence going for over 300 yards and 4 passing touchdowns, and at almost certain he didn't throw a pick in this game. Incredible. Like, this is the Trevor Lawrence that I think we've expected to see. And if it's kind of looking like he's starting to emerge. Like the potential is starting to get realized at precisely the right time going into these last few weeks and going into the playoffs. Like, this is, it's like Ultimate Gohan showing up in the Boo Saga. He's finally living up to potential. Hopefully he doesn't get, Trevor Lawrence doesn't get absorbed by Super Boo after one playoff game. Anyway, mixing fandoms here with football and Dragon Ball. But anyway, I've been watching some various stuff on Dragon Ball, so that's what I've had in my mind. But anyway, seriously, credit to the Jags. They played an incredible game. Took one of the top teams in the conference and took them to town and kind of established themselves as the team to beat, I think. I think right now, with how they're playing, the Jags are the team to beat in the AFC, like even more so than the Patriots. Because if they can do this to the Broncos, they're going to be scary. I'm very, very impressed with how Liam Cohen is coaching this team, because their offense is really good. When it's clicking, their offense is really good on both the passing and rushing levels, and their defense is very underrated as well. And that's a team that it's one that when they click, they can be really dangerous, as we've seen in this game. It's just that we've seen the Jags sometime this year just randomly falter and like completely go out of sync. And I've reiterated a lot over the past few weeks. That's my one concern with the Jags and a lot of these teams that have a lot of new parts to them and a lot of inexperience in the playoffs. It's that they're usually pretty good, but they will be a little streaky at times, and I need to just see some consistency. And I'm seeing a lot of consistency right now from the Jags. So that's why I'm so bullish on them at the moment. And I think that's why I think they're the top team in the AFC at the moment. For the Broncos, they could have had worse losses. They put up a fight for a good chunk of the game, but then kind of fell apart in the second half. Bo Nix still looked solid overall. It's really the Broncos' rushing attack is what's really holding them back at the moment. It's clear they're missing J.K. Dobbins with the unfortunate injury, and the rest of the running back group led by R.J. Harvey just hasn't quite been able to pick up the slack. So, having a one-dimensional offense can really struggle, and their defense did not have a very good game this week, to say that. So they need to, get back into the swing of things here. I think Dre Greenlaw might have got injured in this game. I think he did. Don't know for how long, if he did get injured at all. But Broncos just need to get back on the horse quickly. No pun intended there, actually. But I think they'll be fine. But yeah, this is one where it's clear that they still have some work to do, essentially. Now for the final late afternoon game, the Pittsburgh Steelers going into Detroit to take on the Lions. Both these teams floating at the fringes of the playoffs, and desperately needing wins. As the Lions more so than the Steelers, because the Steelers at least had a bit of a cushion against the Ravens for their division. But even still, it was pretty had they won or had they lost, the Steelers would have been in there would have been a lot more pressure on them. But the Steelers did win this game 29-24 in a very, very typical Steelers game, to be honest. But yeah, the Steelers, they had this long touchdown pass to Kenneth Gainwell where he was basically on the ground. The ball landed in his lap, and he would catch it there, and then because no one was touching him, as he caught it, he got up and ran it in for a touchdown. It was very reminiscent of this old touchdown catch by, I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember who it was, but it was a Packers-Vikings game, I think. It was Packers. I know it was Packers because the Packers touchdown, and Al Michaels was on the call, and he was it was a really good call from Al Michaels. And I think it was Brett Favre throwing it, and the guy was on his back and hit him in the butt or something. And he caught it, and then he ran in for a touchdown. It was a very reminiscent of that. And it was just one of the, very Steelers-y type of plays, essentially. The game was a very slow start. The Lions especially were having a rough go of things. They could not get Amon-Ra St. Brown going for a good chunk of the game. But eventually they started to get things going. Like Jared Goff threw the ball 54 times, so he finished with 364 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. It was really more the Lions defense was just having a terrible time trying to stop Jalen Warren. He finished 14 carries for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had like 2 big touchdown runs, and it was like powering the Steelers offense for a good while. The Steelers also got a safety in this game. And it was, for a good chunk of it, the Steelers were just dominating in the run game and really dominating the whole game. DK Metcalf also punched a fan in the stands, and he has now been suspended for the last 2 games of the season, so that was amusing. Also, don't punch people. It's usually not a good idea, especially if you're an NFL player punching a fan. Just not a smart move there. But there was, kind of like some of the other games, the Steelers started to choke, essentially. They were starting to let the Lions back in. And it eventually got to the point where the Lions were driving down with a chance to complete the comeback in the fourth quarter. And they got down, there was like 15 seconds or something like that, or like 12 seconds. And they ran a play from like their own 12-yard line or so. And it was a pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who caught it, basically got stuffed at like the 1-yard line, forward progress stopped. He tried to then pitch it back to Jared Goff, who then ran in for a touchdown. However, there was multiple flags on the play, and it wound up being a pretty blatant offensive pass interference on Amon-Ra St. Brown. And for some reason, the refs still counted, or said it like, had it not been the case, it would have been a touchdown, even though his forward progress was like clearly stopped. Amon-Ra St. Brown's was, but it didn't matter in the end because the offensive pass interference negated it and also incurred a 10-second runoff or something, and literally ended the game. Like the Lions lost on an offensive pass interference penalty, which is kind of crazy. And while their season's not over, it's on life support at the moment. They're 8-7 and on the outside looking in. I'll go over the final playoff or like the current playoff picture here at the end of the episode. But the Lions are like, they need to win out these last 2 games, and I think maybe also have some help to get back into the playoffs, because big loss for them and big win for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin gets another winning season under his belt. There's actually a good chance he might not go 9-8 this year, because I think they play the Browns and maybe the Bengals at the end. Let me check actually, because I'm almost certain it's the Browns next. Browns and Ravens. Never mind. I knew it was another division game. So yeah, Browns and Ravens. The Browns game, I mean, it could go either way because the Browns have a good defense and the Steelers, I don't know. Steelers always tend to play the Browns a little weird. And then that Ravens game is very big because the Ravens are still alive technically, but on life support as well. And we'll get to the Ravens here in just a moment. But yeah, it was overall for the Steelers, they're very comfortable at the moment with their playoff seeding. They just need, I think if they win one of these last 2 games, they're in for sure. At least I'm 99% sure that's how the playoff picture is at the moment. But yeah, big win for the Steelers. Very Steelers-y type of win. For the Lions, panic time, essentially. It's kind of been panic time, but like really panic time right now. Now we go to the Sunday night game, which includes the Ravens. It was the New England Patriots going into Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And this was an interesting game to start. The teams kind of traded turnovers and touchdowns early on. Like, it felt almost like a mirror match where one team would get stopped, then the other team would get stopped, then they would go touchdown, then they would go turnover. It was like they were very in sync. Drake May had a pretty good game overall, all things considered. He had 380 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did have a fumble late in the game. And Lamar and the offense was more so the Derrick Henry show, to be honest. He was having a really good game. And I say was because he did not really play the last. Oh, well, I'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, it was one where it looked pretty even going for the most part. Then Lamar unfortunately got injured. I think like right towards the end of the second half, if I remember correctly. He had a back injury, I'm pretty sure, and went down for the rest of the game. So Tyler Huntley was brought in. But the Ravens were smart for a little while to lean on Derrick Henry, and the Patriots were really struggling to stop Derrick Henry. The lack of Milton Williams, who is now the practice window for him has opened up to like get him off IR now, so we might see Milton Williams back. My guess is either week 18 or round one of the playoffs, if the Patriots don't get the 1 seed. But the Patriots were doing well enough, but struggling to stop the run, and they were down by I think 9 or 10 points going into the fourth quarter. And then for some unknown reason, John Harbaugh and the offense just decided to literally stop using Derrick Henry. Like, Derrick Henry scored a touchdown with I think 11 minutes to go to put them up by 2 possessions. And he never ran the football again for some reason. I don't know why. Like, you don't have Lamar Jackson in anymore. You have Tyler Huntley in, and the Ravens just decided to go with him and like Keaton Mitchell, because Derrick Henry did fumble in this game, and I guess he got benched because of it. I still don't know why, because he's really good and he was just gashing the Patriots all game, and it's one of the big reasons why the Ravens lost and why they choked away another big lead in the fourth quarter is because they just stopped using Derrick Henry. And credit the Patriots, they played well. This is also with Trayvon Henderson going down with injury. He went down with I actually don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but it really limited their rushing attack. So the Patriots leaned heavily into the passing attack. Stephon Diggs had a good game, and like I said, Drake May had a good game overall, and he led the Patriots to a comeback victory. And this is kind of the story of the Ravens season. They have good moments and like good stats, but injuries to Lamar and like key offensive players, and then just the baffling coaches' decisions a lot of the time, even when their defense has been playing a lot better as of late, really kind of derailed their season. They're 7-8 and have a big outside chance, or in the sense of like they have a very slim chance. Like it's a big in the sense of like, it's a long shot, essentially, for how many different like little expressions I can say. It's a very slim chance for the Ravens to get into the playoffs now, and they have a lot of flaws, especially in the coaching staff. The current coaching staff just seems unable to properly find a way to utilize this roster, and it's really cost them. And there's a good chance we don't see the Ravens in the playoffs. There's a very good chance we don't. It's already already half of the teams that were in the conference championships last year have been eliminated, with the Commanders and the Chiefs, the Eagles and the Ravens being the other two. I think it was the Ravens, right? Yeah, it was. Or was it the Bills? I don't know, because the Bills lost the. No, it was the Bills. Never mind, because the Ravens lost to the Bills anyway. But yeah, they're like, where basically what I was trying to say is that we are going to see a lot new teams. I think I think it's already confirmed that 4 new teams are in the playoffs that weren't last year, and there's a chance for more, essentially, which should be very, very interesting. And it'll be very interesting to see a playoffs without the Ravens, because I'd be shocked if the Ravens at this point make it the playoffs, just because they've dug themselves into too deep a hole. So it'll be interesting to see no Pat Mahomes, no Lamar, and just no Joe Burrow either, and it's crazy. The AFC is new. There's some new blood in town, and it's pretty cool. So now we get to the Monday night game to round things off here, and it was the San Francisco 49ers going into Indianapolis to take on the Colts. The Colts were hanging on by a thread, still are hanging on by a thread. The 49ers would win quite handily, 48-27, in a game that started off interesting. So that the Colts got the ball first. They drove down the field, scored a touchdown. Phillip Rivers looked really good, to be honest. Outside of the one deep throw he had, where it's clear his arm strength is just not there anymore. It's basically when he's throwing anything under 20 to 25 to 30 yards, he can really sling the ball. Anything above that, not so much. But the Colts on their opening drive looked really good. Then 49ers matched them completely. Then the Colts fumbled the next kickoff, and the 49ers scored again. And it got pretty obvious early on that even with DeForest Buckner coming back for the Colts defense was terrible. They could not stop a thing. Brock Purdy finished 25 of 34 for 295 yards and 5 touchdowns. George Kittle had a really good game before he went down with a low ankle sprain. He was questionable return, could have come back if it was close, but precautionary. They were up by a lot, and they just didn't really need him to bring back. Christian McCaffrey had another really good game. Really just everyone on the Broncos, the 49ers offense was having just a fantastic game. The Colts defense looked awful, like just genuinely terrible. They're obviously missing multiple cornerbacks, including Sauce Gardner, but even then, like, it was really bad. Again, they gave up 48 points. Although one of that was a pick six. Phillip Rivers did throw a pick six kind of late in the game. I'm not really putting this on the Colts offense because they didn't run Jonathan Taylor nearly enough, and I'm a little salty because he carried my fantasy team, and then these last couple of weeks he has not played all that well, and I really need him to play well. But yeah, the Colts offense was not leaning on Jonathan Taylor nearly enough. They also were dealing with a lot of offensive line injuries as well, and I think that's also probably part of it. Phillip Rivers played overall pretty well. I mean, like, he did throw I think 2 interceptions actually. Definitely a pick six. He might have thrown 2, but he basically was playing from behind for most of this game, and like was kind of getting forced to score a touchdown on every single drive because the Colts defense couldn't stop anything. And it just was not working out for them. The Colts just were like the 49ers were basically played a perfect game, to be honest. Outside of one interception Brock Purdy threw late in the game, they pretty much played a perfect game. And it's hard to beat that, especially for a Colts team that is really hobbled with injuries and just kind of fading fast, essentially. So the Colts are still mathematically alive. I think they would have to win out and the Texans would have to lose out, I'm pretty sure. But it's like the season's basically done for the Colts, and like big missed opportunity for them because they obviously traded 2 firsts for Sauce Gardner. They were 7-1 going into week 9, and now they're 8-7. So that's been the story for the Colts. They peaked way too early. Their defense, or not their defense, their injuries really hobbled them. And their offensive game plan of just let Jonathan Taylor cook, kind of got solved. And like his back half of the season has been, it's been okay, but it's not what it was before, when he was like an actual MVP candidate. Now he's just a solid running back for them over the past 4 or 5 weeks. And unfortunately, when your offense kind of runs through them, there's one of the many reasons why the Colts are now 8-7. So I'll go to the playoff picture. Let me go. No, that's not where I want to go. I think I just want to go to standings, actually. That's probably better. But yeah, so in terms of teams that have clinched playoff spots, which is the X marker, I believe. So the Patriots and the Bills, in terms of the AFC East, have clinched playoff spots. The division is still up for grabs. So we could see, I'm assuming if the Patriots win next week, they clinch the division. The Dolphins and Jets are long since eliminated. The Steelers and the Ravens are still battling for their division spot. Neither of them have clinched the playoff spot because I think they're both out of the wild card contention at the moment. Because all the other wild card teams in the AFC are all 10 wins or above, and the Steelers are at 9 wins right now. Ravens at 7. So that's one where I think it's Steelers have to lose the last 2 games. Ravens have to win the last 2 games to have the Ravens leapfrog the Steelers for the division. I'm assuming that's how it would have to go, with the Bengals and the Browns eliminated. In the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars have clinched a playoff spot, not the division yet, and the Texans and Colts are not in the playoffs yet, but not eliminated, so they can go. I think it's like I said before, the Texans, if they lose out and the Colts win out, the Colts would get the wild card spot over the Texans. So I think it's the Texans. If they win one more game, they win or they get into the playoffs. And then I think the Texans are still, since they're only one game back from the Jags in terms of just pure record wise. Jags 11-4, Texans 10-5. The division there is still very much up for grabs as well. But Jacksonville firmly in the driver's seat there and playing some really good football as of late. As for the AFC West, Broncos are leading that at 12-3 at the moment. They're in playoff spot. I should also say the Titans are eliminated, but that was kind of obvious. For the AFC West, the Broncos are leading it at 12-3. Chargers right behind them at 11-4. I actually let me check because I think the Chargers and Broncos play in Week 18. Yes, they do. And remember, the Chargers beat the Broncos early on in the season. So that division very much still up for grabs as well, with the Chiefs and the Raiders eliminated from the playoffs. As for the NFC, the Eagles have clinched the division with the Cowboys, Commanders, and Giants eliminated. So I don't think the Eagles can win the 1 seed anymore. So they're just kind of looking to get higher seeded anyway. But they're firmly comfortable. I think my guess is they'll probably play backups for one of the last 2 games, I would assume. But they are firmly within a playoff spot at the moment. For the NFC North, the Chicago Bears have clinched a playoff spot at 11-4. The Packers at 9-5-1 and the Lions at 7-8-0 are in the haven't clinched, haven't been eliminated. They like how these last 2 weeks go. Depend on how they're going to, like how the wild card spot is going to turn out for them. I think the Packers still theoretically could win the division over the Bears. I think it's one of the win out, lose out type of things. The Packers obviously hold the tiebreaker over the Lions because they beat them both times this year. So the Lions very much. They need the Packers to lose both games, and the Lions need to win both their games to try and stay alive. Whereas the Packers are a bit more comfortable, though even then they still need to take care of business. And the Bears feeling very comfortable at the moment with how they're playing. And then the Vikings, though they've gone on a winning streak and are 7-8, they are eliminated. So the NFC South, as I covered in the Panthers-Bucks game, Panthers are up 7-8 over the Bucks, are 8-7. Neither of them have clinched a playoff spot or won the division. Again, the wild card spot for them is firmly out of grasp, so it's very much they need to win the division in order to get into the playoffs. The Panthers play the Seahawks before they play the Bucks in Week 18, whereas the Bucks play, I think, the Rams. I need to once the thing loads up. But either way. The Bucks play the Dolphins, actually. I was completely wrong. So the Bucks have a much easier game on schedule in Week 17 than the Panthers do, but it's really going to come down to that Week 18 matchup. That is going to be very, very intriguing. So honestly, at this point, I kind of said earlier that I expect the Panthers to get in, but who knows, honestly? Who really knows? And then the Falcons and Saints are eliminated from playoff contention. As for the NFC West, the Seattle Seahawks at 12-3, the San Francisco 49ers at 11-4, and the Los Angeles Rams also at 11-4 have all clinched playoff spots. The division is very much up for grabs between all 3 of them, and as well as the 1 seed. I think it's going to be a race between these 3 teams. Obviously, the Bears also certainly have a chance to get to the 1 seed, but I think it's going to be one of the 3 teams in the NFC West that are going to clinch the 1 seed, but all 3 of them firmly within the playoffs at this point. Really credit the 49ers also for the amount of injuries they dealt with to play as well as they've had. Obviously having a healthy Christian McCaffrey for the whole season helps a lot, and Mac Jones playing as well as he did when he was taking over for Brock Purdy helps. And really a lot of the offense being fairly cohesive overall-ish, kind of. It's a lot of the major permanent injuries have been on defense, whereas their offense has been able to stay somewhat together, even with various different injuries they've had. Once again, credit 49ers. They're a very well-coached team. I'll say that. And then also, Arizona Cardinals are eliminated. So that is the current playoff picture. Just a few spots left to actually clinch. But still, the 1 seeds in both conferences are up for grabs and should be really fun last 2 weeks of football. Can't believe it's only 2 weeks left, which is even crazier. But yeah, that'll do it for this week of football. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, I'll also say, because this is going up just a few days before Christmas. And yeah, should be a fun last little stretch going into what's going to be probably an absolutely insane playoffs for 2026, because I am really looking forward to it, because I am in no way able to predict anything that's going to happen, because this season has been so unbelievably chaotic. So that'll do it for this episode. Not sure if I'm going to do something on Saturday, because I'm probably going to be busy with holiday stuff, I would assume. If not, I'll hopefully think of something. I'm not sure. But otherwise, keep watching stuff on my YouTube channel, please. Once again, it is Henry the Host, all one word. It has my podcast as well as other YouTube videos. And yeah, that'll be it for that. Thank you very much for listening.